Last week, the NBA unveiled its list of the 75 greatest players, or, because of a tie in voting, 76 in honor of the league's 75th season anniversary festivities. The rollout of the entire event was spread out over 3 days and ended up being a little anticlimactic, mainly because it was just a list of names sent out, but nothing in a fun, ordered way to spark the kind of fun debate an exercise like this should have done. In lieu of the NBA opting to rank the list, Sportsnet decided to ask 4 of its basketball experts to rank the top 10 names seen on the NBA's 76-player list, as well as to make a case for one player who was probably snubbed from it. 1. LeBron James. No one has done it this well for this long, has taken some bad teams to the NBA Finals and won his share when he was on good ones. As dominant as Jordan at his best, with a peak that's approaching 2 decades, uninterrupted. 2. Michael Jordan. 2 great unknowns. What if Jordan had been one and done at UNC, versus coming out after his junior year, and what if he hadn't retired mid-career to pursue baseball? Could he have won 7 titles? 8, 9? I don't think anyone will ever touch going 6-0 in finals appearances and winning finals MVP each time, to go along with 6 league MVPs. 3. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. 6 rings, 6 league MVPs, and nearly unrivaled excellence in longevity. Ruled the sport at his peak. 4. Magic Johnson, ahead of his time as a power forward turned point guard. The league has been looking for that next Magic, even longer than the next MJ. Had to retire prematurely, left a lot on the table. 5. Bill Russell. Counting stats get a little overrated in basketball since teams take turns with the ball. Being the fulcrum of 11 championships can't be overlooked. 6. Wilt Chamberlain. When your counting stats are as crazy as Chamberlain's, you have to pay attention. Had 2 titles and would have many more were it not for the Celtics' Russell-led dynasty. San Antonio Spurs forward Tim Duncan, 21, celebrates after Game 5 of the NBA basketball finals in San Antonio. David J. Phillip, AP, 7. Tim Duncan, the modern-day Russell, won 5 titles over 3 decades in a small market, led teams to the playoffs every season of his 19-year career. Could dominate offensively when required, but it didn't matter to him the way winning did. 8. Steph Curry, has changed the sport, showing what's possible when the very best, in his case, the best ever, shooters are given the freedom to leverage their skills in ways previously unimaginable. Additionally, he's a winner, with 3 titles, 5 finals appearances, 2 MVPs, and he's not done yet. 9. Giannis Antetokounmpo, another modern star that's redefining what's possible, combining defense, playmaking and rim assaults in unprecedented fashion. Already has 2 MVPs, 2 DPOYs, a ring and a Finals MVP before his 27th birthday. 10. Kevin Durant. There are a lot of vital components to winning basketball, but the ability to score, and do it in the most difficult situations imaginable, will always be the separator. Has there ever been a more lethal scorer than KD? Has shredded game plans at the highest level of the sport on his way to 2 titles, 2 finals MVPs, a regular season MVP and 5 other times in the top 5 of MVP voting. Biggest snub, Dwight Howard. Listen, I'm not that big a Dwight Howard fan, either, and his late career tour as a designated flagrant fouler off the bench hasn't done his legacy much good, but it shouldn't overshadow that for a decade he was one of the most dominant two-way forces in the game. 8 All-NBA teams, 3 DPOY awards and 4 times in the top 5 of MVP voting is more resume than plenty of guys on that list. My list is fairly close to consensus since I'm hardly a basketball historian. Michael Jordan celebrates the Bulls' win over the Portland Trail Blazers in the NBA Finals in Chicago. Decades after Jordan's groundbreaking departure from college, March Madness and the NBA's Mega Millions have taken all the novelty out of leaving early for the pros. Jon Swart, AP. For me, what matters most is winning, but the overall skill set is also a huge consideration. We can all agree that the sport has evolved, and players today have grown bigger, faster, taller, and stronger, but players who dominated an entire era can never be overlooked. Biggest snub: Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is a clear snub when you consider all the moves in his arsenal. You cannot name 10 players who can make all the shots and demonstrate the skill that Irving plays with. The one thing working against him is the lack of team success outside of his time with James, but not every player's game is about floor raising, just like how not every player can rise to the moment the way Irving can. There aren't 75 players on the list who can do what Irving did in the 2016 finals. My list will likely look very similar to most. To me, it's indisputable that Jordan is the greatest player of all time, as I believe he would dominate just as much across any era, and during this modern era of basketball, he would probably be even more unstoppable given how fouls are called, plus, he'd almost certainly add a more reliable three-point shot. As for No's point 2 to 5 on the list, I think these men are all to be top 5 players of all time, it's just a matter of where you want to order them. Golden State Warriors guard Steph Curry looks on during the first half of an NBA basketball game against the Chicago Bulls in San Francisco, Monday, March 29, 2021. Jed Jacobson, AP. As for the bottom 5, when his career is all said and done, I'm almost positive I'll move Curry up the list at least a couple of spots. Yes, he did benefit from the way the game changed, but he took that opportunity and then proceeded to revolutionize the sport as we know it. Curry's not only the greatest shooter basketball's ever known, he's acutely aware of that fact and has terrorized the league, with James in it, because of it. Biggest snub: Manu Ginobili. This is real simple. Ginobili was a 4-time NBA champion, probably the greatest sixth man in the history of the game, which he did willingly for the good of those great Spurs teams. He's an all-time international performer, and he basically introduced the Eurostep into the NBA game, a move that's copied and utilized by just about every big-time modern scorer these days, including James Harden, who's on the list, by the way. The further down the list you go, the easier it is to nitpick and move guys around. The more interesting debates come up beyond the top 10. Kevin Durant is my favorite to try to rank right now, because he's sniffing the top 10 already and will probably get there with any projection from here, so the top 10, for me, is mostly an exercise in appropriately recognizing history. It's not as if I've been around to watch 75 years of the NBA, and so there's a major element of relying on historians, statistics, and legacy to split some of the hairs at the very high point of the rankings. The top 6 here are more or less indisputably top 10 names, however you want to shuffle them. O'Neal probably qualifies there too, while names like Kobe Bryant, Hakeem Olajuwon, Moses Malone, Jerry West, and Kevin Garnett have cases to assail a Robertson, historically significant, or Duncan, a mammoth winner and elevator of those around him. For now, Jordan stays ahead of James. With that said, though, James may still have a few years left in him, and a 5th title and/or MVP to go with what could be a record 20 All-Star appearances and top 3 all-time marks in points, win shares, minutes played, WARP and more will likely give him the best argument on a basis that doesn't include the more ethereal elements of Jordan's dominance and importance. Biggest snub: Alex English. I thought about taking up the mantle for Pau Gasol or Manu Ginobili, but plenty of people have done that since the list of 76 was released. Instead, I'll throw it back to a former Raptors assistant coach, a Hall of Famer, a scoring champion, and one of the top 20 scorers in NBA history. It's easier to make a case for snubs with the newer generation of players. They have time, and English should have been acknowledged on the 50th anniversary list, too. English was a monster when it came to scoring in an era where three-point usage was minimal and creating space for yourself was an art form, the type of skill set that you can see now in players like DeMar DeRozan. Over his 12-year peak, English averaged 24.4 points on over 50% shooting with 5.9 rebounds, 4.2 assists, and 1 steal, finished top 20 in points per game 9 times, made 3 All-NBA second teams and 8 All-Star teams. He also carved out a post-playing role as a key figure in the NBPA, an assistant coach, an analyst, and a humanitarian.